Ukraine is already in talks with Western partners about the future military contingent which will monitor a potential ceasefire, also patrolling air and sea space. Spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Heorhii Tykhyi, said this. In particular, negotiations are continuing on the presence of peacekeepers in the Black Sea and our airspace. Ukraine's destruction of Russia's Black Sea fleet has created a good opportunity for this. Tykhyi recalled the statement by the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Andrii, Sybiha, who raised the need to expand the discussion on Western contingents in Ukraine to include talks about ensuring the security of air and sea. We believe that if our partners and allies discuss the possible deployment of these contingents to ensure long-term peace and security in Ukraine, it is entirely possible to also talk about the protection of Ukrainian airspace, particularly through patrolling by our allies and partners with their aircraft, he added. The spokesperson also emphasized the need for increased presence in the Black Sea as Russia continues to violate the freedom of navigation. We are already discussing this with them in negotiations and believe it is a serious issue that requires further discussion, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs representative noted. He added that the parameters of a potential peacekeeping mission in Ukraine could be discussed at upcoming meetings, including the European Union summit on March the 6th. The UK and France's plan for a peacekeeping force in Ukraine involves deploying up to 30,000 European troops, but it depends on convincing the US president to agree to a limited military role for the United States. The Wall Street Journal writes that the UK and France have proposed a plan to deploy up to 30,000 European troops for a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. However, the success of this mission hinges on securing US approval for a limited military role, a move that is currently under negotiation. According to reports, the peacekeeping force will focus on protecting key infrastructure, cities and ports, including those in the Black Sea, rather than being stationed along the front line. Drones and satellites will monitor the situation to ensure Russia adheres to ceasefire agreements. While the European plan does not require the deployment of US troops in Ukraine, it does rely on American support in terms of military capabilities. The US could place air defense systems in neighboring countries to bolster European forces, while American Air Force units could be put on standby to assist if European troops face danger. The plan is set to be discussed further in high-level talks between British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and US President Donald Trump. However, without Trump's support, the peacekeeping mission could face significant challenges. European officials emphasize that American participation is critical to deterring Russian attacks, encouraging other European countries to send troops and providing the multinational force with essential capabilities that European forces currently lack. Despite this, Trump's ongoing desire to strengthen ties with Russia poses a significant hurdle, and his reluctance to position US forces as adversaries to Putin's troops complicates the situation.
Hundreds of ice fishing enthusiasts were trapped on drifting ice floes in Russia's far eastern Sea of Okhotsk off the coast of Sakhalin Island, the Russian Emergency Ministry reported Friday. According to Associated Press, all 374 fishermen separated from land by some 700 meters of water were rescued. There were no casualties, the ministry said. Local fishermen regularly find themselves on broken-off ice floes. A similar incident occurred 2 weeks ago, when more than 139 people had to be rescued. Diplomats from Russia and the United States will meet in Istanbul on Thursday to discuss the operation of their respective embassies in Moscow and Washington, the Russian presidential spokesman said. According to Associated Press, today's meeting of Russian and U.S. diplomats at the expert level is aimed at developing the understanding that was reached during the telephone conversation between the two presidents and the agreements that were reached in Riyadh, said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Asked about possible cooperation between Russia and the U.S. in the Arctic, he said that it's too early to discuss any economic cooperation, though there is interest of companies indeed. There is a voiced position of the United States, first the settlement, then the economy. Everything needs to be resolved in stages, Peskov said at a conference call with reporters. Of course, there is a lot of information in the media right now, where much of that is desired is passed off as reality, he added. Asked to comment on U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff threats to the EU, Peskov said that while it won't have a direct impact on Russia, Moscow does not like to see many global trade wars. One way or another this will negatively affect all countries of the world, he said. The meeting follows Russia-US talks in Saudi Arabia last week that marked an extraordinary shift in U.S. foreign policy under President Donald Trump and a clear departure from U.S.-led efforts to isolate Russia over its war in Ukraine. At the talks, Moscow and Washington agreed to start working toward ending the war and improving their diplomatic and economic ties. That includes restoring the staffing at embassies, which in recent years were hit hard by mutual expulsions of large numbers of diplomats and other restrictions.
Сейчас действительно на экспертном уровне сегодня встреча в Стамбуле, работают наши дипломаты в развитии того понимания, которое было достигнуто в ходе телефонного разговора двух президентов, и тех договоренностей, которые были достигнуты в Эр-Рияде между делегациями высокого уровня. Вот. Пока, наверное, не нужно забегать вперед. Информация по результатам переговоров так или иначе будет предоставлена.
Мне кажется, когда... Не, я снимаю с рук.